Okay, cool. Well, I kind of started backwards. It looks like you actually want to fit it to the tire first and then put it on here. So we'll reset. Welcome back. So today is going to be a little bit of tinkering, trying to see if we can figure out with what size wheel we're going to need for all four corners to be able to fit this big guy all the way around. Now this is a 315/35/17. It's about a 28-inch tall tire, and that gives us a lot of flexibility where if for some reason we wanted to run like a 28/10/50/15 for a drag tire going to the strip or anything like that, we can do that. We're not going to be too far off on the sizing there, but then even for the 17-inch tall tire, the 17-inch wheel, we have something that's going to have a good, comfortable sidewall, still be stiff enough for handling and whatnot. But let's see what we can do. Okay, now that I have read the instructions, right, we have the width that we're looking to go ahead and establish. And so we have one of these installed on this side. This goes 180 degrees from it, or the best we can, right? Then we take one of the carriage bolts and wing nuts, and we just take this little tab and toss it to where it holds itself in place. And then we do the carriage and the carriage bolt from the top, wing nut from the bottom, and what you can't see in the very bottom is that we're literally taking the same lip that you have and putting it right against the lip of the tire, getting that squared up so it's firm. It's a firm connection on both sides. And now we run this in. So this literally tells us the tire width, or the wheel width we're running, as it's in alignment with there, or the wing nut. And it's like, okay, cool. We already kind of knew that that's what was going to happen. But from here is where we actually run this in and connect the rest of this. So you're going to only need one of these installed for right now, either the top or the bottom plate indicating the wheel diameter, and just like these plates, like these slip directly onto the width plates that are already here. So I'm just gonna slide one in place, right? I'm gonna take the one that's loose and I'm gonna put it in place and lock it in place with the carriage nuts. I'm gonna change angles so you guys can see a little better. Okay, so we've got the tire width plates in. We should be at the 17-inch marker, right? So that should fit on both of these just as so. This one should clip in place and have that same marker in the end. It may be a little bit tricky at this point to get it exactly where it's supposed to be. I mean, we see even here 315/35/17 is the correct size. So making sure that we are a complete 180 degrees separation is one portion of that. It goes smoother for you than it does me. This is my first time using this tool, so it is what it is. You know what I mean? Getting familiar with a new tool can be quite the pain in the butt. In all honesty, I've been really, really, really looking forward to doing this step in this build. We kind of had a vision or an idea of doing something slightly different. I don't know. I'm sure someone's done something in a similar sense before, because very few ideas are even new anymore, as they like to say. But since these are still a little loose, I want to try to slide this back and see, hey, we have an 11-inch wide wheel, and let's see where we look at with a 5-inch back spacing. As you can come back from the back and read it here, tighten up those as they look to see that they're actually even from this side. So we got 5. That one's a little off. So we got 5 and 5. There we are. Tighten you up. Tighten this top one up. And then set you on. I'm going to set it on as vertically as I can. And then we're going to look at what spacing we need for turning. So like I said, this is a 11-inch wide wheel, 5-inch back spacing, right? So if you're looking at offset, the offset would be half an inch behind center. So I believe that would be a negative 450 millimeters kind of thing. But we're running into the fender up front, right? Like that's a challenge. And so can we go in further on the offset to then better be situated for what we need? Can we do this without even needing even if we go there, and there, we're even again. And look at the turning. So no matter what, we're going to need clearance here. That's okay. We are kind of already planned that clearance was gonna be a necessity. And even from the front, like, we're sticking out just a tiny bit. Not the end of the world, in all honesty. And I feel pretty solid about it. But even if we get to the point where we're really looking at this thing on the inside, right? Like, will this clear components on the inside? Not a chance. So as I pull the camera off and we look in here, we have way too close a clearance for this guy, right? Right where the ball joint is. And I understand all of this is in droop, suspension droop. but then even in where the sway bar comes in, there's not enough space. So that means we can't run this offset, right? So we needed the wheel to come, or the face of the tire to come further out or wider in comparison. So to make this easier to see, I'm actually going to pop off the fender. I just have a couple bolts hand tight holding it in place, and visually, such a big help, right? Like even from here, you can see we have no space whatsoever. So we got to work this out. Let's see what we can figure out. So simply enough, right? We know if the suspension compresses a few inches, center line of the wheel is going to be way higher. We can't hit this inner fender. We can't hit anything, so this wheel needs to come out. It is what it is. So we're going to loosen this up on top and bottom, and we are just going to slide it out, right? Slide it out. We got, let's go to 3 inches of back spacing. Let's see how we're looking. Okay, so obviously we're not going to get this much steering angle. It would be a big help if we actually had it would be a big help if we actually had the tie rod ends set up, but this is extreme angle. We're never going to hit this. We're only going to hit about here. So we've got plenty of clearance with the suspension droop here going one way, and then tons of space on the backside, right? Again, suspension is relaxed and not compressed. Get it off the jack stands, get enough weight on it to where we get the bottom position of, or the beginning of compression, and see how we're looking. Actually, one thing I'd like to see, just for my own entertainment, how wide does it sit compared to the fender? See, to me, that's going to be fun, right? Like if the steering is straight, we're going to be building a nice fat flare for the front end. And that to me is so much fun. It's going to make the car seem that much more unique. I mean, we're going to have to do the same with the rear too. So that's gonna look so sick.
Because Benny's gonna, if he walks in front of it, it might lose focus. Do you need to like
no, I focus it and then I turn off the autofocus. Yeah. So
fly at me, is it?
no, I can do this very slow.
Okay. It's no longer like spaced because obviously the weight.
Yes.
But it's still north and south.
Yes. No, that's exactly.
But this released the grip.
Yeah, it's that's okay.
Okay.
Because this kind of lets us know where at ride height we're looking.
Okay.
And this
all the way down?
Yeah, that's as far as we're gonna go. Okay. And that looks absolutely sick.
Yeah. Benny, get out of the way. Let them see. Let the people see.
Like, yeah.
Benny, come here.
That is awesome.
Okay, that's rad. And also ridiculous, all at the same time.
Yes.
Dude, that's freaking sick.
That's some meat.
Those are beef boy.
We like that red meat around here. The thing is like right now, I can't really actually put the fender on it because we need clearance, right?
Do Do you want to hold it in its place at least on the, because like, is this a chalker?
Buddy boy.
Is this chalk?
Yeah, that's chalk.
Because if you put this here, just for theoretically, so then if you at least put the fender out here, I could just mark where the top of that would sit from the inside.
Don't even really need to do that.
Oh no.
And I'll explain why.
Okay.
Right?
Come here, buddy.
Because this won't sit on top. We know that it's gonna just be here, and it's close, but you know, it's still, we still got like an inch here. We got a lot of work. We're gonna be having to cut, you know,
into the fender.
Into the fender.
And then you're gonna
to do the flare on it, right?
That's the word. You're gonna flare it out.
Yes. We are gonna flare it out, and I'll give you a little secret.
Give me a little taste.
I'll give you a little secret. The tire height that I'm running is a 28-inch tall tire.
Okay.
And so if I'm trying to figure out how much clearance we may need to have for consideration, I can just take 14 inches from this position, because the A-arm is at the position that it's going to be adjusted to, from the center, and measure 14 inches up.
Okay.
Right?
Because yeah, that's half of the 28.
Yeah. And so that's going to be the minimum that they're just celebrating because I got to this point. Like that's what's going on right now. And then I'm so excited to be looking at this right now. But then of course we need a little bit more clearance for suspension travel going on. And then, you know, we'll be kind of building up the flare higher, but it's just like, we're going to be doing like a good, I need a measuring tape. And here, we're talking like a 5-inch wide flare that we'll need to build off that on each side. Think about that, 10 inches wider. That'll be fun. That'll be really fun. Maybe we'll do some cutting this episode. I don't know, probably not. Maybe might make that a different episode where we start kind of playing around with cutting some stuff. I'm just getting antsy. Yeah. I'm just getting excited for this point. So yeah, so
yes, explain it to me, because how far will for the non-car person?
Yeah.
The flare is going to come all the way out past the tire.
Yeah, the flare has to completely cover the tire.
You're going to obviously cut this up.
Yeah, so like I said, this is still not complete suspension compression.
Okay.
Because right now it's got the weight of the front end on it to get everything set there, right? But at the point where we add the weight of the engine and everything else that comes in the front end, we're still looking probably like another inch to inch and a half.
So it's going to be compressed more.
Now, since we have coilovers on here, I can still adjust that height.
Okay.
And make adjustments, and like
you can
this,
set the coilovers
I
to
can
a specific tension. Right?
A specific height.
Height.
Yeah, the tension is the spring rating,
Gotcha.
which that's a one-time thing, and then I can adjust the shock itself, but not the coil.
Okay.
But so I can make the adjustments I need to for the height on this.
Okay.
But realistically, we're probably talking, you know, another. Do you have that thing here? So if it was this ride height, right, we would want about 2 inches of safe spacing, probably 2.5.
Just shock movement.
For just shock movement, which would put us here, right, or suspension movement. But realistically, we're gonna be like right up here at the body line, if not higher. Now, we won't get to the point where we actually put a flare on this fender until we actually get the wheels, the tires, the engine, everything in. Okay. And then set that height.
Gotcha.
Because to make that guess now is still premature.
Yeah.
I could force it to be here, but that might not be what.
Yeah, once you set everything in place and the weight and everything, it all shifts.
Yeah, and so that might not be the optimum suspension setting for the car for what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So we'll make a relief cut, right? So I'll mark this out and kind of
measure that distance and bring it. Yeah.
arch it out, because no matter what, I'm going to need steering clearance here as this turns in, which I may just go boop, and trim that whole section off for right now, rather than making a cut up here. But then trim all this.
Yeah.
I can kind of taper it back here.
Okay, so you can taper it.
I can taper it back here. I'm gonna bring the camera around.
Yeah.
While our dog's being a goof.
Being a cutie.
He is just precious. Aren't you, buddy?
You got your rope?
Just precious.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at from this side, hopefully you can see the markings, is up here for some cutting. Bring it down, maybe just kind of chop it off here, right where this little lip is a marker. So if we do, for some reason, weld it back together, which is more than likely never going to happen, we can do that. And then I was mentioning that we may do like a half chop on this fender here, and then take and shape underneath this panel a smooth panel that diverts air out easier, so air doesn't get trapped in the bottom of this fender, improving aerodynamics. There's less drag, right? But then also the exhaust system that's going to come out also may come out to run underneath the car on this side too.
Now, why would you want to cut off the front part of that piece?
That front part? It's a 50-50 right now. So if you want to bring that back over. Because no matter what, for the steering angle that this is going to need to cover, because you have to remember, it doesn't just need steering angle here, it needs steering angle under a bump when the suspension compresses. So realistically, we would need to already cut off about that much, if not a little bit more, right? So we're already just hanging this little bitty guy right here, whereas I could do something else and work on making space for some aerodynamic stuff by just getting rid of all of this where the core support is here, and then I can build stuff off of the core support and everything structured underneath here, rather than worrying about keeping a flimsy piece of metal or fiberglass or whatever the fender ends up being in the end, because we want to have as lightweight as possible. But even like it sits right now, this is still like off of the mounts like 2 inches, right? Like I can't even set it all the way down.
The tire's too big.
Yeah, like on the front, we're 2 1/4 inches. So think about that. We're still 2 1/4 inches on top of that other 2 1/4 inches. So we're even talking about maybe going like.
And how much clearance do you need? 4, at least?
So you want to think 2.5 to 3 for suspension movement. For compression, you're going to start the fender at a higher position because it's going to fold down. Right? So then that's also a consideration as to how wide is this fender flare and what is the height of the fender flare. So we may be like way up here on that. And I mean, think about that arc, right? Like that arc is almost this, the height of this pen. I might be able to even do that. That mark is the height of this pen. If I take that here, like, that's not a whole lot by the time we get, we're talking like a little sliver right there. It's not worth keeping that little bit of metal there. But with that said, I can actually look to see what this is going to look on the rear end too.
Yeah.
Just got to jack it back up, take this off, move it to the back. And then...
You're wanting to do that right now?
Oh, of course. Of course. So you can pause the... Since I'm supported on the axles, I only have four jack stands. So I can't get the rear end higher than this right now. It's Benny Boy. It's hard to be mad at him when he's so cute.
As you just have dog butt in the shot now.
Benny Boy.
Go that way. Go that way.
So I know I'm looking on the rear. Let me grab the tape measure. So we're looking at same thing, about a 5-inch flare. A little bit less. We're looking maybe like a 4.5-inch flare, potentially. As far as height goes, if I grab this from the center, maybe. So if I go center to there, we're at 8 inches. So here, we're looking here for basic height. That's just how tall the tire is going to be. And then we need the couple inches of clearance. So we're talking here. Realistically, I'm not going to put a flare on this.
You won't?
Until we get the car running, driving, front suspension tuned, and then we actually start at rebuilding the whole rear suspension. Realistically, like, because the whole rear suspension is going to be redone, and the whole ride height of the rear suspension is going to be something entirely different. It's probably going to naturally sit a couple inches lower than what it currently does. I could put a lowering kit on here, like a block on here, to mimic that. Potentially once we get the car running, so then we could potentially see it that way. But that'll be something we see long term. But we know we're gonna have to cut this guy and make space for these fat tires that we got. So very excited.